Kevin Costner and singer Jewel now dating?
I appreciate who she is. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Both his appearances in box office hits and the drama that has unfolded in his private life have contributed to Kevin Costner's famous status in Hollywood. Costner, who is magnetic on and off screen, has a history of love relationships that match the dramatic turns in his films. Has he finally discovered enduring love after years of bitter divorces and high-profile affairs? Come along as we investigate this seasoned actor's possible new spotlight partner by delving into his prior romances. We need to know what precipitated his terrible past relationships before we can examine them. Kevin Costner's rise to Hollywood prominence was fraught with uncertainty and humble origins, contrasting sharply with the glamour and luxury that characterize his subsequent work. Costner made his big-screen debut as an extra in the 1982 comedy Night Shift, but his early forays into Hollywood hardly made an impression on the general audience. His breakthrough role was that of an unremarkable partygoer, a position that most people would have passed up. Costner had a cameo in Sizzle Beach, USA, which was shot in the late 1970s but released in spurts, confusing fans about when his film career actually began. He also had cameos in commercials and other small parts around this time. Director Lawrence Kasdan's decision to cast Costner in a tiny role in The Big Chill, which was later trimmed, was a turning point, 1983. Despite having his sequences cut from the finished product, Kasdan was so impressed by Costner that he promised him a larger part in a next picture. With the 1985 Western Silverado, which featured Costner's charisma and rough on-screen presence, this promise came true. He had a huge career turning point when he played the charismatic cowboy Jake, who captivated audiences. Silverado was a major turning point in Costner's career. He co-starred with Robert De Niro and Sean Connery, among other Hollywood heavyweights, as Elliot Ness in the 1987 film The Untouchables, which included historical gangland personalities. His performance as Ness, with its laser-like concentration, won over reviewers and viewers and solidified his reputation as a competent leading actor in dramatic plays. In the years after The Untouchables, Costner opted for parts that were a good fit for his acting chops and that appealed to American audiences. His most notable film roles were in Bull Durham, 1988, and Field of Dreams, 1989, both of which had baseball as a central theme. Field of Dreams focused on the more romantic, nostalgic parts of baseball and personal salvation, while Bull Durham highlighted his love of the sport and charming screen personality. These parts cemented Costner's position as a popular actor and won him supporters as the archetypal hero of Middle America. He owes his meteoric climb to fame to the work ethic his father inculcated in him as much as it does to his casting choices. It was evident that Costner internalized his father's words of wisdom, which frequently emphasized the significance of perseverance and hard work. He was able to successfully traverse the intricate dynamics of Hollywood and tirelessly pursue his dreams because of this fundamental principle. Dances with Wolves, 1990, in which Costner starred and directed, was the high point of his early career. Despite industry doubts, he saw this enormous production through to completion, and it was a commercial and critical success. His vision and ability were on full display in the film, which took home many Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. This project demonstrated not just his leadership and directing chops, but also his commitment to telling stories that are both captivating and visually breathtaking. During these crucial years, Costner's career was defined by both his on-screen roles and his strategic decisions behind the scenes. Important steps on his rise to stardom were working with seasoned pros, choosing scripts, and taking the risk of moving into directing. But as Kevin Costner's celebrity rose to new heights, the stresses and personal sacrifices that had brought him this far started to show, hinting to a turbulent period in his life that would eventually cast a shadow over his flawless public persona. Primary marriage dissolved. Costner and Cindy Silva had a happy marriage in the beginning, but as his fame grew, his private life started to fall apart, and they eventually had a dramatic and expensive divorce, which changed how the world saw him for a while. While both were students at California State University, Fullerton, Kevin Costner met Cindy Silva in 1975. Silva was remarkable, drawing comparisons to her portrayal of Snow White in her Disneyland summer employment. Their profound and immediate bond resulted in their marriage 3 years down the road. During those carefree years, they seemed like the quintessential young couple, full of love and ambition. The family expanded as Costner's career gained momentum. Along with Annie in 1984, Lily in 1986, and Joe in 1988, the happy couple welcomed 3 children into the world throughout their marriage. Because of his demanding movie schedule, rising Hollywood star Kevin Costner was often gone from home, putting a heavy burden on Silva, who oversaw their domestic life. Managing his growing job with his family's needs put their relationship to the strain at this time. Their relationship started to crumble despite the fact that it seemed successful and stable on the outside. Costner had further difficulties in the 90s when rumors of adultery spread like wildfire, since many of his jobs called for an affable, handsome leading man. British tabloids were especially vicious when these claims were rampant during Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves' production in England. Word got out about Costner allegedly having an affair with a receptionist at a London nightclub, which was a major hit to their marriage. Their relationship was severely tested by the continual speculation and scrutiny from the media, which were intensified by Costner's extended absences on film projects. Silva persisted in her efforts to keep the family united by providing for their children and bolstering Costner's profession, despite these difficulties. Even though it came at a time of increasing personal difficulty for Costner, she was an integral part of the creation of his Oscar-winning, ambitious movie Dances with Wolves. The stresses of fame, gossip, and separation finally broke the marriage in 1994. A large financial settlement, believed to be approximately $80 million in Silva's favor, finalized the couple's decision to split. Divorce was a major story in the media, which tarnished Costner's image as a devoted family guy and portrayed him as a Hollywood prototypical figure embroiled in a controversy. The breakdown of his marriage was a devastating emotional loss for Costner, echoing the failures of his mid-1990s professional endeavors, such as the box office bombs, Waterworld, and The Postman. Amidst the aftermath of his previous marriage, Kevin Costner found himself unexpectedly drawn to Bridget Rooney, beginning an unexpected chapter in his romantic history that would be filled with unanticipated twists and turns. Relationship with Bridget Rooney. Kevin Costner met Bridget Rooney in the mid-1990s, when his marriage to Cindy Silva, his first wife of 16 years, was coming to an end. Rooney, who came from a famous family that owned the Pittsburgh Steelers and did a lot of good in the world, was working at a TV station in Aspen when this happened. Rooney, in contrast to many Hollywood insiders, had no interest in gaining notoriety or financial backing from her ties to the business, which included a short romance with Costner. Although Costner and Rooney's affair was short-lived, only a few months, it had far-reaching effects. Rooney became a mother in 1996. Confidently describing her predicament, she did not indicate any financial purpose against Costner, but she was sure he was the father of her kid. Even though he was hesitant to accept the new baby at first, by the time Rooney gave birth to son Liam in November, her relationship with Costner had already begun to sour. Yet, there was still the lingering desire to establish Liam's paternity. Rooney wanted to make sure of this with a DNA test in the early 2000s. After Costner's paternity was verified, he set up a trust fund for Liam and promised to help with his upbringing. Despite the financial recognition, Costner was said to remain involved with Liam's life on an as-needed basis. Even though he wasn't always hands-on, he was always there for his son's upbringing. Although Kevin Costner's relationship with Bridget Rooney was a significant turning point in his life, the story was far from over. In the middle of the constant scrutiny from the public spotlight, he would soon cross paths with Joan London, forging a bond that held the possibility of fresh starts. Joan London. Joan London is a well-known American journalist who was a co-host on ABC's Good Morning America for many years. Kevin Costner had a brief romance with her in the mid-1990s, when both his career and personal life were thriving after his well-publicized adjustments. Both parties were at the pinnacle of their careers when this romance began, which meant they were subject to intense media attention and public curiosity. Over the course of her remarkable career, Joan London became one of the most recognizable faces in American households, because to her perceptive journalism and engaging presence on morning television, she was already well established as a major figure in the media because to her broadcasting accomplishments, but she had further solidified her position by penning many novels. In 1995, when Costner was heavily marketing his big film project Waterworld, the love connection between London and Costner began. According to London, the two were even more attracted to each other since they were both aware of the other's professional achievements and felt the same demands and attention from their public lives. There were charming moments and the more conventional wooing rituals during their romance. Including a boat cruise across New York Harbor, Costner planned a first date that appeared straight out of a romance novel. As their brief romance began with supper on the river beneath the skyline, the location created a stunning backdrop that London characterized as both beautiful and romantically meaningful. London had an immediate connection with Costner the second he stepped onto the yacht and welcomed her with a kind word and a smile, which bodes well for the future of their relationship. But things became more complicated when their romance garnered a lot of media attention. According to London, one of the main reasons their romance didn't progress further was because the press was too focused on them. Both her time with Costner and her subsequent relationships were affected by the fact that she was guarded in her personal life due to the public and media attention, she said. Kevin Costner's love life would be colored by a string of enthralling meetings, even if his relationship with Joan London ended due to the pressure of public attention. His diverse interests. Like the characters he has played on television, Kevin Costner's real life has been full of color and variety throughout the years. Several famous women have been associated with Costner in some way. Whether through long-term romances or marriages, each of these connections has added a new chapter to his love past. After his breakup with Silva in the mid-1990s, Kevin Costner had a string of short romances with famous women. Birgit Cunningham, a British socialite, was involved in one of them. During their 3-year romance, Cunningham gushed over Costner, calling him Mr. Perfect for his charming personality and gentlemanly demeanor. In 2006, when Costner was publicly defended from claims by a masseuse, Cunningham emphasized his polite demeanor by saying that their connection appeared open and unusual, noting their time together. At this time, Costner's love life was still entwined with the celebrity and fashion industries. Rumor has it that he fell head over heels for Angie Everhart after seeing a snapshot of her. Everhart subsequently said that the media had blown their relationship out of proportion, pointing out that the story of a private plane laden with flowers was all made up, despite the rumors and the public meal. The same was true for Costner and Elle Macpherson, two of the most famous supermodels of the 1990s. The fact that Costner met Macpherson followed his pattern of being attracted to attractive, powerful women. Rumors have it that he was head over heels for her and saw her as a formidable possible companion. Their frequent appearances together at social occasions suggested a strong bond, but their romance was short-lived. Toni Little, a TV personality and former Miss America, joined Costner's life at the same period. Another illustration of Costner's attraction to successful and well-known women was their relationship, which was characterized by frequent public appearances and common interests. Little discussed the difficulties of dating under the constant scrutiny of Hollywood's media, which contributed to the relationship's eventual demise, as it had with his previous transient hookups. A complicated and fascinating portrait of Costner's love life was portrayed by these encounters, which were brief but thoroughly examined. Along with the usual sparkle and glamour of Hollywood dating, his relationships with Cunningham, Everhart, McPherson, and Little were marked by the personal difficulties and public scrutiny that come with being in a high-profile relationship. An examination of Costner's romantic history reveals a guy who relished the company of powerful women but yearned for a more meaningful relationship, something that appeared unattainable under the glare of the paparazzi. Though they were all short-lived, he found solace in their company and intimacy for a while, but he never stopped looking for true love. Kevin Costner was finally ready to settle down after a series of short romances, and he tied the knot again with Christine Baumgartner, a relationship that offered stability following a turbulent season of flings. Tragically, he married again. After an exquisite marriage filled with shared dreams and vows, Kevin Costner's second marriage to Christine Baumgartner lasted almost 20 years and ended in a public and heated divorce. From an optimistic start to a stormy finale, their romantic path reflects a common story, one that is distinguished by deep connection and major obstacles. They originally met in the mid-1990s while Costner was still dealing with the fallout from his previous marriage. They were filming Tin Cup when they first crossed paths. Their time together was fleeting, but a more meaningful bond started to form over the course of a few years. By 1998, they were both free to pursue their relationship, and in 2004, they were married at Costner's picturesque property close to Aspen, Colorado. Baumgartner arrived to the wedding in a horse-drawn carriage, adding to the gorgeous ceremony that reflected Costner's romantic views. Christine Baumgartner's goals and dreams, including a family of her own, were a part of the marriage. She is a professional model and handbag designer. They eventually had 3 children, Caden, Hayes, and Grace, despite Costner's initial reservations, because he was already a father to 4 children from prior marriages. Costner eagerly welcomed parenting, but he also struggled with his own anxieties about looking good for his younger bride as he aged. The intricacies of their connection, however, grew with the passing of time. Baumgartner obtained a divorce decree in May 2023, following a marriage of over 20 years. Not surprisingly, given the severe monetary and custody demands at stake, the hearings garnered considerable media coverage. The enormous stakes of their separation were highlighted by Baumgartner's initial demand for child support, which was $175,000 per month. After hearing evidence from both sides, the court settled on a monthly maintenance amount of about $63,000. The divorce was a public spectacle as well as a legal struggle. It brought to light both their large joint assets and their extremely private issues. But by September of that year, the couple had settled their differences amicably, which was a relief given their impending court dates and possible trials. Their joint statement emphasized the conclusion achieved and their mutual appreciation for it, bringing their divorce procedures to a close. The bitter chapter in their life came to a close with this resolution, and now maybe Costner and Baumgartner can go on with some respect and harmony. Looking back on their 19 years of marriage, there were many happy times, most of which were on the expansion of their family and the experiences they enjoyed at home together. Still, juggling the demands of public life, a blended family with large age differences, and changing personal relationships was a huge strain. During this period, Costner's career went through a number of transformations, and he had to deal with the breakup of his marriage on top of the constant scrutiny that came with being a public person. The beginnings of his romance. A new thread began to weave itself when Costner engaged into a love connection with singer-songwriter Jewel, despite the fact that his life had been defined by both personal hardships and accomplishments in the film industry. With a shared love of music and the arts and a history of remarkable events, this young romance struck a chord with both people. Their love started during a beautiful and charitable charity event that took place on Richard Branson's Necker Island in the British Virgin Islands. It was a tennis tournament to benefit Jewel's Inspiring Children Foundation, an organization she is very involved with. Here in the middle of the laid-back glamour of sports and philanthropy, Kevin and Jewel's lives intertwined. Jewel, a legendary performer and songwriter with a distinctively soulful voice, had always been an icon of self-reliance and creative honesty. Costner was drawn to her because her life narrative, which began in the harsh Alaskan climate and ended in the limelight of music venues, embodied sincerity and tenacity. Jewel was a soulmate to Kevin, who had a celebrated career in movies and music, but who shared Jewel's appreciation for the natural world and her understanding of life's intricacies. There was an obvious bond between them during the occasion. Pictures of the two of them, clearly enjoying one another's company, generated a lot of curiosity and guesswork. Taking to social media, Jewel shared scenes from the event, mentioning Costner's participation and thanking him for his support, showcasing the natural flow of their personal and professional relationships. Costner appeared to find solace and rebirth in this new connection, following a tumultuous divorce from Christine Baumgartner, his ex-wife with whom he had lived a pivotal period of his life. This new love story was characterized by carefree camaraderie and common interests. His relationship with Jewel brought much-needed brightness after the public and traumatic breakup of his marriage. An essential part of their connection was their mutual appreciation for music, an art form they both loved very much. Jewel, whose reputation in country and Western music was well established, was a perfect fit for Costner, who had cultivated his musical tendencies through his band Kevin Costner and Modern West. Meeting as two artists who shared a same language gave their relationship more depth and longevity than if they had simply been two public celebrities. Kevin and Jewel, both aware of their history but hopeful for what was to come, embraced a philosophy of ease and natural growth as they made their way through the early stages of their relationship. Many others had noticed how naturally their relationship had grown, which led them to believe that their union had been predetermined. Their common social circles, admiration for one another's work, and experiences in the spotlight all played a part in cementing a connection that seemed natural and inevitable. Under the peaceful skies of Necker Island, Costner seemed revitalized in this chapter of his life, experiencing the delights of a new relationship. As they delved deeper into their relationship, they discovered that it was based on simple principles, mutual regard, common interests, and the restorative power of love. This boded well for their future together. Leave a comment with your opinion on the matter, and while you're at it, subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Thank you for tuning in.